When you call someone confident, it sounds good, but call that same behavior arrogant, and suddenly it sounds bad. Same action, different word. Your entire opinion just flipped. The words you use aren't just describing reality, they're creating your reality. And you probably don't even notice it happening. Every conversation you have, every article you read, every thought you think is being shaped by language choices you never questioned. Your brain treats words as neutral labels, but they're not. They're weapons that manipulate how you feel about everything. This happens constantly in ways that control your beliefs. You read that protesters are passionate, or you read they're unhinged. Same people, same protest, different words. Your judgment changes completely. A policy is called progressive, or it's called radical. Same policy, but your support shifts based on that one word. You describe someone as frugal, or you call them cheap. Your respect for them changes. You've been taught that words just describe things, but they don't. They frame things. They load emotion onto facts. They tell you how to feel before you've even decided how to feel. And you accept it without question because it sounds like description when it's actually manipulation. This is called loaded language bias. Studies show people can flip their opinion on identical policies by over 40% just by changing the words used to describe them. Your brain evolved to process language as information about reality. Words meant things. Fire meant danger. Food meant survival. So your mind trusts language to be accurate. It doesn't scan for emotional manipulation in every word choice. Your neurons just take the feeling embedded in a word and apply it to the thing being described. You think you're reacting to the facts, but you're actually reacting to the framing. Your brain thinks words are telling you what things are, but words are telling you how to feel about things, and you can't tell the difference. Let's look at how this controls your thinking every single day. You're reading the news about an economic policy. One source calls it a stimulus package. Another calls it government spending. Same money, same policy, but your brain processes stimulus as helpful and spending as wasteful. Your opinion on the exact same policy shifts based purely on which word was chosen. You think you're forming a view based on the policy itself? You're not. You're forming a view based on the word choice. The facts didn't change, but the framing did. And framing is invisible to you because it just feels like a neutral description. Or think about this. Someone describes a person as assertive. You think leadership. They describe the same behavior as pushy. You think problem. The person didn't change. The action didn't change. One word shifted your entire perception. You're now judging them differently based on vocabulary, not on reality. And you don't even notice the switch happened. Your brain took the emotional weight of the word and transferred it onto the person. You think you're observing their personality, but you're really just absorbing someone else's framing of their personality. Research suggests this happens, on average, 23 times a day. This bias doesn't just affect single opinions. It creates a cascade effect where loaded words shape your entire worldview without you ever catching on. You consume media that consistently uses certain loaded terms. Freedom fighter versus terrorists, illegal immigrant versus undocumented worker, enhanced interrogation versus torture. Your brain absorbs the framing. It forms opinions based on that framing, and then seeks out more content that matches those opinions, which, of course, uses the same loaded language, reinforcing the frame. You get trapped in a loop where word choices create beliefs that make you seek out more of the same word choices. You think you're becoming more informed, but you're actually being indoctrinated by vocabulary. And no, you're not overthinking this. It really is that complex. Most people think this is about being persuaded or needing to think more critically, so they assume they just need to fact-check more or be more skeptical. But that's like thinking you can avoid manipulation by just squinting harder at the manipulated information. The real issue isn't that you need better facts. It's that loaded language makes you feel things before you think about things, and feelings shape thoughts much faster than thoughts shape feelings. By the time you get around to evaluating the facts, the words have already told you how to feel. You're not analyzing neutral information. You're analyzing pre-framed information while believing it's neutral. This bias survives because emotional language is more engaging than neutral language, and admitting that words control you feels like admitting you're gullible. Plus, recognizing loaded language means recognizing how much of your thinking isn't actually yours. It's just absorbed framing from sources you trusted. And if you stopped accepting loaded language, you'd have to do the exhausting work of translating everything into neutral terms before forming an opinion. Your brain would rather let the framing do the thinking for you than expend all that energy questioning every single word choice. And that's exactly why most advice about this completely fails. You're not hearing descriptions. You're hearing instructions on how to feel. Disguised as descriptions, when someone calls a politician a leader versus a demagogue, they're not telling you what that person is. They're telling you whether to respect or fear them. When a product is described as affordable versus cheap, you're not getting factual information about its price. You're getting emotional information about its value. The facts are in there somewhere, but they're wrapped in feeling. And your brain processes the feeling first, fastest, and most powerfully. By the time you get to the facts, the frame has already set your interpretation. Once you see words as frames instead of labels, everything shifts. You stop asking, "Is this true?" and you start asking, "How is this framed?" That news article isn't just informing you, it's positioning you. That friend's story isn't just sharing facts, it's loading emotion onto those facts with specific word choices. You're not getting objective reality through language. You're getting someone's emotional interpretation of reality. And every loaded word is them telling you how to feel. The moment you catch the framing, you can separate the fact from the feeling, but you have to notice the frame first. So, the next time you read something and feel a strong, instant reaction, you'll know what's really happening. The words are loaded. They're carrying emotional weight that's transferring onto the topic. But now, you can catch it. You can ask yourself, what would this sound like in neutral language? You can notice when passionate becomes fanatical, or when assertive becomes aggressive. That awareness is everything. You're not trying to eliminate loaded language. You're just trying to see it so it stops controlling you invisibly. You started this video thinking words just describe things. Now you know words frame things, and the frame controls your feelings, which in turn control your thoughts. That's not a small shift. That's seeing the invisible manipulation present in every sentence you hear. Pay attention this week. Notice loaded words everywhere. See how many times you or others use emotional language instead of a neutral description? The frame is always there once you start looking for it. Subscribe if you want more insights like this that actually make sense. Thanks for watching.